we have Dr. Abhijeet Pathak, scientist D from CPCB, Kolkata. He has an environmental professional with more than 35 years of experience. So let's see what he shares about his concerns, how to tackle the pollutions, how to monitor the pollutions, and how to provide the new technologies which can offer these pollution control systems. He has gathered a lot of experience in environmental impact assessment, industrial pollution control, monitoring and compliance. These are the very important factors, because when we talk about the standards, once we have to measure any parameters, we should have a proper references, proper standards. And when we talk about the standards, we generally adopt the standards from US, ISO, ASTM, European Union. But if we look at the Indian conditions, we have a vast variety of environmental conditions, varying from north to south, east to west. Every 300 kilometers, our environmental conditions changes. So when we talk about the compliance, there should be a uniformity. When we are measuring the some emission parameters in northeast, or say northeast part of the India where the temperature is sub-zero, and when we are measuring the same parameters in, say, Rajasthan areas, when at the same time the temperature goes beyond 50 degrees Celsius, we should have standard measurements and compliance which are uniform, and it should be acceptable. So the need is to develop the standards or to develop the technologies which are compatible with Indian conditions. That is the most important thing. This has been emphasized by Prime Minister Modi ji also a few years back, when he inaugurated a few technologies and few systems, and he established the continuous emission measurement systems at National Physical Laboratory. That the development of standards as per the Indian conditions is the foremost requirement. So unless we satisfy the Indian conditions, they may apt or we may not be able to get the proper measurements. So that's why the compliance along with the measurements is a very important areas. And he has been a member in various technical committees, starting from NPL, committees for source application, NCAP, and he has done a lot of projects in CPCB as well.
Thank you, Session Chair, and thanks to the organizer for inviting me. It's my pleasure to be here. So basically, this is my talk will be on not the technology, because the industrial people are more technical than us as a regulator. So we learn the technology from them. So, and I want to put some issues really, the challenges and opportunity also regarding this, the bridge between the regulators and the industrial operations. What are the field problems right now, particularly focusing on SAMES, the other online monitoring system. So, yeah, challenges for the industries. See, challenges for the industries, I think the increased demand in quantity and quality both. The quality demand, I think there are a lot of things. Quality demands means your process has to be that much optimized to give some products which the public demands, the market is demanding that quality. This is also putting some impact on the environment. Now, the demand in quantity, because the population is growing and the demand is quantity is always increasing. Export market, then global competition also with the competitors of our nearby neighboring countries and others, even in Western countries. Energy demand, everybody talks about that. International obligations. International obligations will say, for example, the carbon footprint and carbon decarbonization. We had to set a target immediately, and then keep pace with the GDP. This is the challenge, because India is having enormous GDP target is there. Because if we talk about GDP, the percentage is maybe within 10%, but gross productive. And the developed countries, they already developed, their GDP might be lower. But thing is that the target is enormous for us, and that's a challenge to the industries to keep a pace and to take our country forward with the economic growth. So, stringent environmental legislations, day by day, by the demands of the environment and the problem in environment in Indian continent. So the regulators had to make the stringent norms, that one. And it is also creating a challenge for the industries. It is creating a challenge for the regulators, and it is a challenge for the, even my colleague is here, and speaker from the laboratory and the management system. And then this is a challenge for the laboratories too. Say for example, I can give an example. Now the power plant emission target from 150 brought down to 50. Now people are talking about 30 milligram per normal metric particulate emissions, and people are now, the regulators are insisting the industries to go for, even after ESP you have to go for the back filters. Now in the back filter, if after ESP back filter functions well, then the predicted emissions will be less than 10. The question, this is a challenge for the industries to bring it down to less than 10. Investment and the technology. Then technology is available. If investment is there, that's not an issue. But now the challenge comes to the laboratory who will be monitoring that one. In present practice in India, I think the measuring the concentration of particulate matter below 10, it's a challenge. Because normally the instrumentation available with the regulators, with the accredited laboratories, they follow method 17. Method 17 or US API. It's the in-stack filtration. In that in-stack filtration, a thimble weighs around 4 grams. So the difference in dust particle collected on thimble, it is very difficult to measure in your balance. So this is the issue. These are the issues, the challenges. So challenges is there, then definitely there will be opportunity. I have given an example for the laboratory to develop their infrastructure for the equipped for the method 5. There is another method which can measure. My point is that if we can't do this one, if we can't achieve that target of that quantitation, forget about the calibration of OSEMs. All the data you will be giving from the back filter, I think these data are not that much correct. So this is the issue. Then policy makers will be in a jinx to form anything and give a notice to the industries. Then the challenges to the industries going on is going to improve. So now already discussed the EAI baseline data. I think most of the cases it is being seen. The adjacent to that area where EAI is being carried out, we have continuous ambient air quality monitoring stations. And these data never matches. But every proposal of EIA has to comply that we are within norm and the incremental concentration is this much. But that's really, really surprising in many of the cases, because the adjacent area, even far 10 kilometers away, if we have a CEQM station, that station data is never matching with the EIA findings and EIA data. So this is the process, and we have to think. The government has to think what should be the baseline. Is that current baseline data and the increment is this much, then we will approve the EIA, or we have to comply with the standard stipulated or notified standard. Then I think industrial growth will be at stake. So these are the things, challenges. Disparity in national data and EI data that I already discussed. Regulatory compliance. So regulatory compliance, say for example, at present, normally people are getting alerts through OSEMs, but at present, the compliance through OSEMs is restricted to the establishment of connectivity. That is not the target. And it is not the regulatory compliance for this, the OSEMs is floated. I'll come to that point also. Now another thing is that India is having a greater problem that we don't have a defined land use. And industry and mixing up the other land uses are really so adjacent, and it is very difficult for the regulators to conclude that who is responsible for this menace in the environment, particularly in the air, because the air is not having any boundary. Two industries are together and they are saying, I am not the responsible, the adjacent neighbor, my neighbor industry is responsible. That is another point. So if we can't group that one, the developed world has followed this one, but we have some challenges in this area. Now challenges for the government and regulator: keep peace with GDP, export market is always there, energy demand, resource, fossil fuel, lot of discussion in the morning session was done. International obligation is also challenges for the government. Then disparity, okay, this all discussed. I'll skip to that point number G. Implementation of same mechanism for all. I am giving an example for that one. Implementation of same mechanism, I want to mean here, say for example ZLD. Every industry is very happy to say that I am a ZLD. Is it possible? Is it possible for all the sectors to have ZLD? So that's a real problem. And whenever we go to the field, and we really feel so that industry is not really, it is not possible for this industry to make a ZLD. So uniform practices implementation may be an issue, and which is posing threat to the industry, which is posing always threat to the regulators too. So land availability, I talked about the fitness of regulatory compliance standard. Fitness of regulatory compliance standards, I am pointing out, giving some example. Say for example, today we are talking about circular economy. And then in circular economy, say for example, hazardous waste recycling. We have Rule 9, we have 25 odd SOPs for those one, recycling. You see those standards, those SOPs, those guidelines. Number of parameters to be monitored in the fugitive emission there, the list is enormous. And in the condition itself, regulator has put this parameter for the trial run even, it has to be done through enable accredited laboratory. And I am confident that no enable laboratory is existing having those parameters in their scope. So, why it happened? I think there must be some gap between the discussion between the stakeholders, the active participants, and the policymakers. So this gap, once it is notified, now it's a Bible. I think that is another point of having a failure. We are moving towards a failure. So these things, I think the industrial associations should take up, and they must open up with the discussion. I have seen some parameters are there like HCN, hydrogen cyanide monitoring, in emission. I think this really is not possible. And there's no existing methodology for that one for HCN monitoring in emission. So this has to be thought properly. Once it is notified, that's a legal obligation for everybody to comply with. So that's why the fitness of regulatory compliance standard is to be looked into, and the stakeholders consultations prior to notifying this thing is much more required. And another thing is that, see, the public, we are notifying, before notification we are putting a draft in our website, and very less people are following those drafts. So very less comments we are getting. It is not US that everybody is educated, everybody is putting their impetus, putting their points, and just knocking the door of the government. And this is not a practice here. Even the industries are reluctant to comment on that one because they don't want a debate with the regulators. That is also another point of, that is another point. So let's public participation, I rule that one. Overreactive participation in public attacking court cases. And with this case, overreacting public participation is also there. And being a regulator, I am in Calcutta right now. In last 1 year, I am just dealing with not less than 20 NGT cases. And in our office, we are dealing around 80 odd cases. So this is the practice. And there are some cases are genuine, and most of the cases are coming through overreactions. And if this discussion goes on before notification, I think this reaction will not come. So that's another observations I want to put out on. Now the opportunity for both industry and regulators. I think but many opportunities are there, but maximum simultaneous gain, economic and environmental, may be obtained in few sectors like energy. I am giving some example. It is that every sector can have that opportunity and gain. But energy is having an important sector, and through waste to energy route. as NTPC people were saying, the use of the fossil biofuels, this is the route. And here also another regulatory point is coming. The point, say for example, waste to energy, municipal solid waste to energy. I think Delhi is having a plant there, but it is facing a lot of problem because the location of the plant. And in our MSW rule, solid waste management rule, you cannot have your solid waste dumping station within the city. You cannot cross the boundary. So these all the issues are coming day by day with the impetus pressure on the land and human being. So now, and the waste recycling is another field where we can have that opportunity to do that one, like battery, MSW, plastic management, all these things. Now, embracement to the OSEMs is another part which is not really, we have not embraced properly, which was the objective of Sir Kametraji and myself also involved in since 2014. But the success after 10 years, when I try to evaluate, I am not that much getting some confidence that whether it will be implemented properly and we are embracing it at all or not. Why it is not giving desired output in 10 years? It is the reasons for that. One is that lack of confidence in industrial sectors, then flooding of manufacturers and low-cost, ineffective monitoring system in the market. Industry is going for the low cost. Every time cost is important, I know that one. But if I purchase something which is not sufficing my purpose, then that much cost is also wasted. And market is now flooded with numerous products, and the customers as an industry is getting confused always. Now, absence of suitability, selectivity assessment and performance evaluation. This is a part where regulators also not initiated properly, not done properly in last 10 years. Industries were directed to install, get connectivity, that was stated as a compliance. But what they have, which one they have installed, the selection of instrument, the location of installation, and how does it perform, nobody is bothering through that one. Even I am visiting some of the industries where the particulate matter probe is broken, still the data we are getting. So this is happening in market. So the performance evaluation, which is a part of the regulator's perspective, it is why we went for the OSEMs, because the regulator's manpower cannot visit all the industries. Even number of industries and manpower engaged in this field are disparities there. So that's why OSEMs will give you a transmission of data that we will know the status sitting at the remote place. But at least once in a lifetime, those instruments installed which is sending you a data, digital thing is always problematic. It will never stop. It will give some figures always. But how far these figures is correct? That is the assessment is not required. That is the process in our worldwide being followed. A one-time performance evaluation, that is lacking in our case. And that's why always we are, sometimes industry is facing some alerts, sometimes regulators has been criticized in everywhere, the why you have installed once you are not using this data at all. So we are not in a position to properly use this data. Now, expansion of OSEP's regime to many parameters, those even not feasible to monitor. I'm giving an example. Driven by the market and the players in the market. Many state boards, many a time, giving some parameter which is not included in our guideline. Beyond that, it is being suggested to monitor. I'm giving a simple example. Even a 50 megawatt captive power plant was instructed to install a Mercury online analyzer costing 50 lakhs. And it is never written in our guideline, and MOEF has not even directed to install this instrument for this purpose. MOEF clearly stated that whenever it is included in EC conditions, then only they are bound to install this one. But this proactive or proactive nature of regulators is creating another problem also somewhere.
Your time is...
2 minutes, just 2 minutes. Now, the lack of clarity OSIMs and ZLD is another issue. Everybody is ZLD, and ZLD is instructed to install the online monitoring system. And what they did, they don't have any water. They are putting their sensors in a bucket. And this is not acceptable. But in our guideline it is written, but ZLD case, in the case of ZLD, only PTZ camera will ensure you are not discharging. And say, these are the different things. And so the brainstorming required the present alert mechanism also and the removal of fear psychosis. This is the point, most important point. Removal of fear psychosis of the industries may be forcing them to modulate the actual data. They are having a fear psychosis. As in the morning session to our discuss, the fluctuations in a dynamic process is expected. And we cannot compare these data with 24/7 compliance. It is accepted. Then move forward to do that one in a better way. I think after the brainstorming, the averaging time is most important. But the pity is that if the industrial data is not coming us to correctly, tomorrow everybody is complying to that standard, stipulated standard. Tomorrow the regulator will have no option rather than making the standard more stringent. Through this data, which is not correct, we are receiving. So the association may take a lead not to send the actual data on that. The averaging time case may be taken to capture the dynamicity of the industry. Sorry, I have taken 1-2 minutes more time. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Abhijeet. You have given very good perspective of industrial as well as regulators. Both are facing the challenges. So industries have their own challenges, regulators have their own challenges, but we have to see, we have to come on a shared platform where the challenges have to be converted into opportunities. So regulators and industries, they have to work together. One cannot sit in one place that we are the emitters, we are not bothered about compliance. The regulators cannot say that we are the regulators, will impose the penalties every time. So both of them have to share the common platform. They have to come together. So this is a very good presentation. And for HCN monitoring, as you have mentioned, Dr. CHP has just mentioned that he has the system, monitoring system in his company, and he is implementing. So with this, we can have 1 or 2 quick questions before we go to the next session. Yeah, we have one question. Come forward.
Thank you, Dr. Pathak, for your presentation. The issue is, when we set up ambient air quality standard, we set up the ambient water standards. So source-specific standards has to be tightened slowly. Ambient air quality standards were settled in 2009, but source-specific standards have not been accordingly fixed for many industries. So that is the issue. You know, NGOs, civil society, they are after, they write through press, otherwise they represent here and there that ambient quality standard and ambient water standards are not being met. So, and this OCMS is really something which I will not speak here because that will not be palatable to many. It is not required. You cannot ask a person to give evidence against himself or herself as per Indian Constitution, but it is happening. And it is the responsibility of the regulator to monitor the emissions, effluent, whatsoever means they want to employ, because they are getting consent fee. They are being, that is a basic job of the regulator. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.